this is Lori from Shoo Shoo Paper Art, and today I'm making these really cute springy cards using the Wreath Turnabout stamp set from Concord 9th. When you get these stamps, the first thing that you want to do is use the guidelines that they give you on the packaging. It looks like this, and you can see the X on both of the wreath stamps. You want to transfer that to the stamp itself, just using a permanent black ink. So you're going to put the stamp face down, following the matching, just matching everything up there. And then you want to take a ruler and a permanent marker and draw the X right on the stamp. This is really going to help you get out everything lined up and end up with a beautiful wreath. Concord 9th has a video on that, so you can look at that, and that should be really helpful. Okay, I'm going to use my MISTI for the stamping. I found that it was a lot easier than using anything else to do it. So the first thing I did was cut a piece of cardstock that would fit my stamp. This ended up being 4 by 4. Then I drew an X, diagonal, on my piece of cardstock. Now, Concord 9th also has a way of doing this so you don't make the marks directly on the cardstock that you're using, but I just found it easier to do it this way. So you can take a look at their video too for another method on how to do this. So I'm going to take that stamp that I've made the black X on, and I'm going to lay it on my cardstock and line up those lines so that they're perfectly matched. And that will ensure that I get a really pretty wreath when I'm finished. So let me pick that up. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase these lines off because I really don't need them anymore. And I don't want to have to mess with erasing them, you know, when after I've got it stamped. And plus the pencil will show through. So, good idea to get rid of that right away. All right. I'm just going to stick this in the corner, making it really easy to line up every single time. And I'm also going to go ahead and use a magnet to just kind of help hold it in place. Today I'm using these Colorbox pads to create the look that I wanted. And I'm also going to need a scrap piece of paper because this is really light. And to get that really light wreath, I needed to stamp off first before I actually stamp it onto my cardstock. So I'm just going to lay this right on top of my paper and start the stamping process. All right, I'm going to start with a pink. Pink is always one of my favorites. And I'm going to ink up the stamp and then I'm going to press it lightly to get rid of some of the color. Then take off that scrap sheet. Stamp again. And I get a really light impression. Now, I'm going to turn this immediately because I think that's one of the easiest things to forget. And then you have this different color on top of what you've already done. So I'm going to always turn it the same direction. For me, that's turning it counterclockwise. For you, that might be clockwise, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to use a baby wipe, and I'm going to clean off the color that I've already put on. And then I'm also going to use a paper towel just to dry that off. I'm just going to blot it dry. next color is kind of a lavender or a purpley pink. Do the same thing, ink that up. Bring in my scrap piece of paper. I'm going to fold it over and lightly press. Get rid of some of the color. Put that to the side. Now I've already turned my paper, so I don't need to turn it again. I'm just going to stamp. And there we are with two. Do the same thing, clean off. Now I'm ready for my last color. I'm going to go ahead and turn. Isn't that pretty? It makes such a pretty wreath. I'm so happy with that. All right, I love the light color. It's exactly what I'm looking for. All right, so on this particular card, once I had the wreath portion done, I used, set that over here out of the way before I knock something over. All right, so for this particular card, I used an older paper tray ink stamp set to finish it off, and that is the Little Bitty Bird Editions Stamps and Dies, which has the fence and the little bitty birds there, and I think that's all I used off there. Okay, so with the fence, I die cut from white cardstock and then used one of Paper Tray Ink's stencils, the Woodgrain Stencil, and just laid it on top and sponged on a little bit of yellow and pink. I know it doesn't really look like that in the picture, but that's what I did to get that look. All right, the actual background to the card, this part back here, is actually sponged also. Here is the one for this card. You can see I've just sponged the outside, and here is the card base for this card, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to open that up and just go ahead and use some blue tape to hold it down, and also kind of to do a barrier so I don't get too much on the back. I'm just going to ink up the sponge. And start sponging it on. You may see that I have, I'm doing it just directly on, nothing behind it. I did get the new Ranger glass matte. I'm really happy with it. I like it a lot. I use it all the time now. Anyway, I'm not going to do a whole lot of this because I know you already know how to do this, but you can just see how I set it up to make it easy to sponge the card. Okay, the only other addition to this card is the fancy lacy borders, the lacy borders by Lawn Fawn. And just place that behind the panel, popped up the birds, and voila, that one's done. So this wreath is done exactly the same way. I've already stamped the pink and the purple. Now I'm not stamping any color off because this one's brighter. Same colors, just not stamped off. I am ready to do the third color. I'm going to do that blue. And I'm doing the exact same thing I did before. Remembering to turn and always turn the same direction. Okay, actually, I haven't turned yet. It's so easy to forget. That pretty spring wreath. I want to set my MISTI aside and take a look at the rest of the card. For this one, this bird is from, let's see, a set called Songbirds from Paper Tray Ink. I used the stamps and the dies on this one. And I already have stamped and cut out another bird. So I'm using the bird as kind of a guide to make sure that I get everything set up properly. And on this particular card, this word sing is made with another Concord 9th stamp called Sophisticated Script. Absolutely am in love with this stamp set. It comes in lowercase and uppercase script. It just so happens that this one is all lowercase. And so I'm going to show you how this stamp set works too. It's kind of a little bonus here. All right. I'm going to start with the S on sing. And the S almost looks like an L if you don't add one of the little tails that comes with the set. So when you see it stamped for the first time, it's not really going to look like an S. Okay. So there's the first part of it. And there are two tails offered in this set down here in the corner. I don't know if you can see them or not. There's a short tail and a long tail. And I used the short tail on this particular one. And I'm just going to line it up. I'm going to go ahead and slide that off. And I'm going to line up the tail with the curve at the top, or the loop at the top, overlap just a little bit into the S and stamp it down. Isn't that pretty? Next up is the I. And I'm going to attach it to the tail of the S. Again, laying it on where the two will connect, overlapping slightly. And continuing on. Oops, with the N. If I can find it, the N. Again, connecting and overlapping slightly. And then adding in the G. Oops, I don't think that's it. There it is. And there we have the word "see." Okay, for the rest of this card, I've added the same border and sponged the sides of the card base. Added the little bird and a heart, and then the elements of the music and the "Let Your Heart" are from that same stamp set as before, the Little Bitty Bird editions. All right, so I hope you get a chance to play around with the Wreath Turnabout stamps from Concord 9th. Those were a lot of fun. And also the sophisticated script. That is really pretty. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me at shooshoepaperart.com.